So if you told me a few years ago that I'd go 90 days without a single vegetable, I would have said you were crazy. But here I am, 90 days into the carnivore diet. And what I've learned changed the way I think about food, metabolism, and medicine. Welcome, everyone, to episode 80 of the Obesity Project. I ate nothing but meat for 90 days, and here's what changed. So, first, let's start off with why I did it, discussing how I went from a low carb to a carnivore diet. So, for over 3 years, I was eating low carb and I wasn't doing it casually. I tracked macros, ate clean, and did intermittent fasting. But despite all of that, my A1C, it kept climbing. My weight started creeping back up. I was insulin resistant, even while doing an almost ketogenic diet. So I decided to take the most exclusionary route possible, a true zero carb anti inflammatory reset, not for weight loss, but for insulin control. And to eliminate all the foods I was only eating out of obligation, like vegetables I didn't even want. So carnivore was the ultimate elimination tool. And I wanted to see what would happen when I gave my metabolism absolutely nothing to fight with. And I just want to make this really clear. For me, this was not a weight loss journey. Um, but if you're obese, if you're overweight, if you have pounds you need to shed, no question, carnivore diet, a great way to do that. So, I just want to preface that my results already came when I was at my goal weight. So I really wasn't looking to lose weight or any significant weight. If I lost a few pounds, great. But that wasn't the main goal. So if you're looking to lose weight, I can assure you this diet will definitely help you shed those pounds and pounds of fat, not pounds of other stuff like muscle and bone and all the connective tissues that you have to worry about with the GLP-1s, the Ozempics, the semaglutides, the tirzepatides. So let's talk about what I did eat and how simplicity really wins. My daily routine was built around animal-based foods like you see behind me. So for breakfast, I generally ate eggs with cheese and bacon or sausage. For lunch, I had like shrimp or cheese or deli meat. And I really primarily focused on bone broth because it was super quick and easy to just swag some down between patients. For dinner, mostly ruminant meats like beef, lamb, sometimes pork or chicken, and did do fish as well. Big seafood fan, so added the seafood in there. And even ate things like sardines in oil that would give me the omega-3s that I really need for good brain function and to keep the cholesterol numbers proper. And we'll get into all of that down the road. Snacks, none. I didn't need them. There's no question that the biggest difference that I noticed on carnivore is there aren't any cravings. The cravings go away. It's a hugely satiating diet, meaning you are really very rarely hungry. And when you do get hungry, you're meant to eat. So this isn't a starvation diet. This was actually much, much easier for me than low carb with fasting because fasting, I was hungry all the time. And after I ate, it only kept me full for a very short period of time, and then I would get hungry again. I found myself most of the day while doing low carb and fasting, I found myself hungry all the time. Yet when I ate carnivore, I ate when I was hungry, I stopped when I was full, and I never had to track any calories. And I didn't cheat, not even once. So the takeaway is this diet, I can't even really call it a diet, this way of eating isn't a test of willpower. It was surprisingly easy because I wasn't fighting cravings all the time. So let's talk about what actually changed: body, brain, and gut. So here's what actually changed over the last 90 days. So let's talk about mental first. No energy crashes, so no having to get a cup of coffee after lunch, no brain fog, no mood swings. Focus was solid throughout the day. I really didn't have any problems with focus. So let's talk about digestive. Now, the one big thing that I will tell you that definitely happens on carnivore, and this is a common report, fewer bowel movements. Now, fewer bowel movements does not equal constipation. Fewer bowel movements that are easy to pass is not constipation. Constipation is very hard, dry stools that don't pass easily and block you up. So fewer bowel movements that pass pretty easily. I only really pooped about twice a week now, and pretty straightforward on that. No bloating, no constipation, no discomfort, and gas totally gone. There's no question I was a lot more gassy before when I was eating vegetables, and now that a lot of fiber has been eliminated from my diet, most of that gas completely gone. Um, and then in terms of physical sensations, I didn't really gain any significant energy like many on the carnivore diet do report, but I also didn't feel sluggish. This was the one thing that I was kind of bummed about a little bit. Um, I didn't really feel this amazing energy that many carnivores note. However, when I was doing resistance training, lifting weights, I did find that I had more energy to do the weightlifting, and it was easier for me to get to. I wasn't dreading it as much as I did prior. My sleep pretty much unchanged, and that's a win for me because I actually sleep very well. I don't have a lot of sleep disturbance throughout the night. I do have obstructive sleep apnea, so I sleep with the CPAP. However, my sleep was just as good, if not better, as it was before, but really relatively unchanged. I can't really say that it was much different. Um, and then, of course, sugar cravings were completely eliminated. This is a really, really nice thing. You don't realize how completely addicted to carbohydrates you are until you give them up and you eat a very nutrient-dense diet, rich in animal proteins. You're going to be full most of the day. You're not going to have any cravings to eat, and you're certainly not going to have any sugar cravings or craving, those carbohydrates. So let's talk about body composition. So I do see a dietitian every week. We do body composition monitoring every week, and so unfortunately, just kind of timing the way things worked out. The When I started the carnivore diet, my dietitian's scale failed, and it took about 2 months for him to get a new one, a better one that is custom designed, and took about 2 months before he got it. So I really only have about a month's worth of composition to look at. However, over the last month, under the guidance of my dietitian, my fat percentage dropped, my fat-free mass increased, and I gained muscle. Now, all of this in the last month, I actually had to stop doing the resistance training for about 3 of those 4 weeks because I did get diagnosed with a herniated disc. I was having some back trouble, and so over the last three of those 4 weeks, I have not done any resistance training yet. Still gain muscle, so that's completely related to my diet and not to the resistance training. And all of this while losing only 1 pound. So I did lose a pound, but here's the takeaway message from this is you cannot go based on the results of a regular scale on total weight by itself. So you could have lost 5 pounds and have it be all water. You could gain 1 pound, lose 2 pounds of fat, but gain 1 pound of water or muscle, and you're going to see differences. So you have to really look at body composition monitoring. If you can do that, if you can't, the very next best way to do this is to monitor your body circumference. So measure your arms, measure your waist. That's the big one, of course. Measure your hips and legs, and use those measurements to give you an idea of really what's happening, losing fat, gaining muscle, all of that. Definitely body composition monitoring is the very best way to do that. But if you need a more inexpensive or simpler process, definitely just look at your body circumference. So the bottom line takeaway message for me, my body got healthier even when the scale barely moved. So let's talk about what the science says about the carnivore diet. Well, the first thing I will tell you is much of the studies that we look at really are based on ketogenic diets because they're really carnivore is. I can't say it's new because it's really what we've been doing since the dawn of history, since human beings were modern Homo sapiens. We've been eating an animal protein diet for the most part. It really is we've probably spent, I don't know, 50,000 years eating a carnivore diet, and maybe only about eight of those 1,000 years really with agriculture and eating plants. Really, plants, if you think back to sort of caveman days, plants were really only around for a very short period of time in each local area. And so there wasn't much plant matter that was being eaten. It was mostly animal products. But so when we look at the science, it's not really much science specifically on carnivore. Now, that is changing. There's no question it's become a huge movement, the carnivore diet. More and more people are catching on to this way of eating. And so there are actually some studies going on right now to look specifically at the carnivore diet. But just remember, the carnivore diet is a ketogenic diet. It's just an extreme form of ketogenic. Ketogenic usually is less than 30 grams of carbohydrate or even 20 per day. And on carnivore, you're essentially getting zero. You're getting a minute little bit in the meat, but for the most part, it's essentially a no carb diet. So it's an ultra, sort of form of a ketogenic diet. So why does carnivore work for metabolic health? Well, primarily because it strips away every insulin spiking variable. No sugar, no starch, no fiber fermenting in an inflamed gut, no processed oils. So studies show that high protein, ultra low carb diets improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, and supports lean mass preservation, especially in insulin resistant individuals. And this was a study by Lutwig et al. In BMJ in 2018. There was also a 2020 study in Frontiers in Nutrition, which documented improved glycemic control or control of blood sugar and body composition in participants following an animal-based elimination diet, even when total caloric intake remained stable. So stable, consistent calorie intake. It's not a question of calories in, calories out. Stable calorie intake, switching over to an animal-based diet gave those people better blood sugar and blood sugar control. So an analogy is if insulin resistance is a fire, carnivore is actually removing the fuel. So what's my biggest struggle? It's not hunger. It's not cravings. It's not energy. Just social situations. Now, sitting at a dinner with friends or family while they pass around the pasta and the bread and the desserts, that's the only moment I feel friction. So, what do I do to remedy these situations in both social settings with friends or family, or in professional settings where I'm going to like maybe a continuing education course and I know there's going to be limited types of foods there that I can eat? So, what I do is I eat beforehand. I eat a carnivore meal before I go, and I'm pretty much comfortable. I don't eat till I'm stuffed, but I eat until I'm comfortable. And then I can pick at the few things that are there that are safe for me to eat. And honestly, it's not really that hard when you feel good in your body. So, this has been episode 80 of the Obesity Project. I ate nothing but meat for 90 days. Here's what changed. This wasn't a crash diet. Carnivore has been around for thousands and thousands of years. This wasn't about weight loss for me. Like I said, though, if you're looking to lose weight, no question this will do it. For me in particular, and for you, if this is a problem for you, this is about fixing the metabolic signal. And why I'm still waiting, while I'm still waiting on my post lab results, what I've already seen is digestion, cravings, and body composition. These are all telling me I'm on the right track. So carnivore gave me clarity, not just in my mind, but in how I want to treat chronic disease. So don't forget, here on the Obesity Project, we're cutting through the myths, getting to the root. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned because all this week I'm going to be talking about um, uh, my carnivore journey and the science behind carnivore and some of the things you can expect or not expect on carnivore. So thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you know when my next video is released. Make sure to like, share, and definitely share this with other folks that really need to hear this, that have been struggling with diets. If you have done numerous diets and you feel hungry all day long, this is the diet for you. I'm telling you, you got to get on it. Now, I do want to just preface this also by saying, I generally do not push any particular diet. I think a low carbohydrate or ketogenic diet is perfectly fine. If you want to do carnivore, I think it's a great diet to do. Again, I'm not here to steer everyone into carnivore, but I will say I think it's a very effective diet that will really help you cut down on inflammation, cut down on insulin resistance, and cut through some of the chronic disorders that many of you out there have. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.